Hey friends, it's Josh coming to you with a tarot snapshot for the month of September. Being September 1, I wanted to check in really quickly and kind of give everyone a forecast as to how the month's going to go and what we should be looking at as we move into the last 4 months of the year, last quarter of the year, as you were. So, the tarot snapshot is a quick 3 card reading. This kind of snapshot can be done with oracle cards, it can be done with tarot cards, it can be done with runes, really anything that you use divination for. The first card shows us who we are in the moment. And as I'm explaining this to everybody, I'm kind of setting the intention that this reading applies to anyone who comes across this. The second card that I'm going to pick is sort of the thorn in our side, what vexes and perplexes us. And then the third and final card that I pick is the card that to me is like the rose. It's what heals and reveals. So let's get to it. I'm going to shuffle 5 times. And again, setting that intention that anybody who is watching this message applies for. So let's just get it in. Number 3, also check out my Facebook page, my Instagram and stuff, because I am now offering weekly writings, blog posts on a service called Substack. So it's something that you can hop in there and subscribe to. No payments, no fees, no nothing like that. So here we are. I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. I'm going to cut it right down here. Okay. This card right here, this card represents who we are all right now in this moment. Okay. So right now, the Wheel of Fortune. I love the Wheel of Fortune because the Wheel of Fortune shows us that we are at a kind of turning point or a time of fate. Now, the wheel on its surface is just about kind of what goes up, goes down. It's that constant cycle and that constant movement. I was fascinated today because September 1 is considered, I believe, meteorological fall or autumn, when the first day of autumn astronomically is essentially right around the 21st or the 22nd of September. Kind of shifts around, as you were. The equinox is that time of year where we are equally between the winter and the summer solstice. So summer solstice, the longest day of the year. Winter solstice, shortest day of the year. The equinox is essentially the time when we have equal amounts of day and equal amounts of night. Very powerful time. Right now, we're moving into September. I'm a huge fan of what I call the Burr months. September, October, November, December. With that being said, right now, we just have to pay attention to the turning of the wheel. Northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, the wheel turns no matter what we do. And that's a great reminder for our life in general. You know, the world carries on without us. The seasons are going to change without us, without our stopping them, without anything. So, Wheel of Fortune, we're right here, right now, riding the wheel, as it were. I do want to bring up that I don't like to talk about fate or destiny a lot because I don't want to speak for them. I don't want to, I'm not going to speak for fate or destiny. Some things happen to us that have absolutely no reason and kind of are just an extension of the randomness and chance of life, kind of like that roulette factor of the world. But there are some things that often happen to us that are fated. We cross paths with people, we begin and end certain portions of our life. Be mindful that, you might be walking through some fated experiences right now. This next card is what vexes and perplexes us. Okay, so this is the Ten of Cups. The Ten of Cups is the card that I would refer to as sort of the happily ever after card. It shows a family, children, grass, rainbow. It just shows the most pastoral, almost stereotypical fairy tale ending that we would, generally speaking, all be looking for. Now, I'm already starting to get this story here painted. This card right here talks about, again, the happily ever after. But if this is in the position of what vexes and perplexes us, this is going to ask me to ask you to sit with what I call Cinderella syndrome. Fate and destiny what fickle creatures, when none of us understand them as clearly as we think we do. The Cinderella syndrome is sort of an extension or related to like the American dream. The American dream tells us work hard, success will be yours. Reality is often different. The Cinderella myth, the idea that, boy, if you just work hard enough, fate and destiny will see it. The presiding powers will see it and they will just give us our happily ever after. That's not necessarily true, not all the time. And we can have some really awful things happen to us, fated or not, and kind of get pissed at the divinity. You know, we all have this idea that, boy, if you suffer long enough, the universe will recognize your quota of suffering that you filled and give it to you. Like, oh yeah, you know, Cinderella, you have scrubbed your evil stepmother's floors long enough. We will deliver unto you your fairy godmother. We've got to be mindful of the Cinderella myth or the idea of happily ever after. Very important with this. Now, let's dig into the card of what heals and reveals. Okay, I love this. The Two of Wands is this card in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. It shows a man standing on this sort of like castle edge, and he's holding a globe out, and he's looking over it. And this card right here is all about, what do you want out of the world? What do you want out of the world? And we can see a progression and a story of the Wands where the Three of Wands kind of shows this man's ships coming back to him. He's done the thing and he's seeing results. This card and this story that we see here, you got the Wheel of Fortune talking about fate and destiny. You got the Happily Ever After card. And then we have this. This card tells us that we have to co-create with the universe. The universe, our spirits, our ancestors, the greater angels, gods, the saints, all the mighty dead, all the spirits out there that have your best interest in heart, our best interest in heart. Well, they can do all sorts of things for you, but you have to co-create. You have to co-create. I just heard a joke, and I want to illustrate it here too because I think it's a good illustration of what this message is. There's a man, and he had a home. And if I slaughter this joke, my apologies, but I hope you get the gist. There's a man, he had a home, and there's a great storm coming. The town was going to flood, his house was going to flood, and they were evacuating the area. A car rolls through, stops at his house, sees him, and is like, "Hey, listen, we gotta get out. Do you want to ride? Do you want to get out of here?" And he's like, "No, I'm gonna wait for God. God will save me." Then the flood happens. He's in the second floor of his home. A boat comes by. He's like, "No, don't worry about it." You know, a boat comes by, says, "Hey, let's get you out of here." And the man says, "No, don't worry about it. I'm gonna wait for God. God will save me." Then waters rise, the man's on his roof, a helicopter comes by. It's like, "Hey, we gotta get you out of here. Can we save you?" And he's like, "No, don't worry about it. I'm gonna wait for God to save me." Man dies, goes to heaven, sees God, and he's like, "Listen, I believe in you," and I'm yada, yada, yada. I'm like, "Why didn't you save me? I was praying to you." And God's like, "What are you going on about? I sent you a car, I sent you a boat, I sent you a helicopter." In that way, the universe, God, the spirits were kind of helping, but that man had to take part in that. He had to co-create it. So remember that your existence, the universe, this worldly happenings that we're in, this is all a method, and this is all a process of co-creation. Co-creation. Don't wait for your happily ever after to fall into your lap, because you'll be waiting quite some time. Remember, the wheel turns, your happily ever after is what you make it. And if you're waiting for your fairy godmother, remember that you've been her all along. Have a wonderful September.